Hello and welcome back to our channel. In today's episode, we're going to cover the step-by-step process of what it requires to build a new home. My name is Dallas Palmer. Welcome to Build Mod Media. If you're watching this, you've thought about building a new home and you have lots of questions. We're here to help. In the process, you have to think about all of the components it takes to build a home. You need land, you need a design, you need a contractor, and you need to figure out what goes into the house. The first thing you need to build a house is dirt. That could be confusing for you. You've picked out a design and you say, well, why can't I just build a house on the lot that I've picked out? You need to find out from your realtor what the setbacks are on the particular lot that you're interested in. A setback. Those are lines that they have drawn per the jurisdictional requirements that allow utilities to go either up the side of your property or across the back. That is what we call the building envelope. Unless you're buying a large tract of land, you need to know what those setbacks are so you know the size of the footprint of the house you can place on it. Unless they have perfected the science of the self-levitating house, you're going to have to find something that fits on the particular lot you're interested in. That brings us to our next point, site location. You can find places in interior downtown areas, but most likely there's a house already on it. The smarter money says you buy something really, really cheap that is dilapidated and needs massive renovation, of which you're going to have to knock it all the way down and dig a new foundation. You might want to also look to the outskirts of town, such as where I'm standing at right now, and find newly developed areas. Those generally, for the most part, have larger lots. So digging deeper into that, you have to be very careful of where you pick. Some subdivisions have already selected general contractors. You have to know that ahead of time because you're kind of married to whoever they have approved to build in the subdivision. If you find a lot that is just out in the middle of nowhere or on the outskirts of town that is not attached to a builder, then you can select your own. If you go to a tract home subdivision, you're probably working with a national builder. So let's start there. You find a home, it's reasonably priced, and you want to purchase one of their models. Quite normally, you have to select one of a series of models that they have, and they don't really have a lot of options that you can change with the house. That would be more along the lines of a semi-custom. So you're kind of defined by the layout that they already have, but the advantage is you get to pick the paint colors, you get to pick the cabinets, the flooring, and all of the fixtures inside of it. Most of the time they'll send you to a design center where you sit down with a designer and they'll walk you through the entire process and you can pick out all your upgrades, including a wonderful surround sound system or elements like that that go into a home. Then you say, well, wait a minute, I'm not part of that category. I want something that is mostly designed already, but I want to make some changes. I would look for a semi-custom builder at that point. Those are the builders that if you get in soon enough before they've actually constructed the house, you can move walls around inside the house, you can pick some custom elements within a very defined parameter. So let's go into the last category, the full-blown custom home. You find a piece of property, there's no general contractor attached to it. You find a contractor, you find your design. You want to have it built. Well, first we have to discuss the design. There's many ways you can go about this. You can get online and get to some sort of a house planning website where they have house plans already designed and you just purchase them. If you're going to do this, make sure that you buy what they call the AutoCAD package, not the PDF. Because when you ship it off to the designer, it needs to be in that CAD format. CAD means computer-aided design. That way they don't have to redraw the whole thing. They can actually just open it up and then you start making the modifications with the architect or designer, which brings us to our next question. Do I need an architect or do I need a draftsperson? There's advantages to both of these scenarios. If you go with an architect, you're going to get the architect, the mechanical, the electrical, the plumbing, and the structural engineer all in one package. They will go through and do the exact specifications for every element that needs to be built. If you work with a draftsperson, you need to make sure that they have those structural, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers rolled into their package. Some draftspeople, they don't include it in their package, and you've got to source that out. With an architect, once you get the design done, a lot of times they have already contracted with the truss manufacturer and you have your engineered truss drawings, which is separate from the structural engineer. And they review everything to make sure that everything works together. With a draftsperson, you're probably going to have to go to a lumber supplier that also builds trusses. Inside of that firm, they're going to have their own engineers that put together the structural design for your trusses. You'll want to make sure that your draftsperson has included in their package that they will review the design to make sure that it fits on the house that you have designed. So we've figured out the design. We've got the engineering done. We've got everything ready. Do you need a general contractor? The answer is yes and no. We'll discuss no first. I've talked to a lot of people who have ventured out and built their own home. Understand that when you hire a general contractor, they are going to manage every sub-trade along the way and manage the schedule and the budget to make sure that it's completed on time inside of your budget. If you manage it yourself, you're going to have to go out and find everybody involved. Just a rough overview, you're going to have an excavator, somebody to dig the foundation. You're going to have a concrete sub so that they can build the foundation and all the flat work. Then you need a framer to come in and actually construct the home. You'll need to source out your windows, your doors, your trim. You'll have to hire your mechanical, electrical, and plumbing subcontractors before you even get to the point of drywall, of which you have to buy. Then you go to paint and you get it trimmed out. Cabinets, countertops, sinks, faucets, all of the finished elements of a home. If you hire a general contractor, they are responsible for hiring and managing all of the sub-trades. That includes everything from the excavation all the way to finishing the project. Your responsibility in this process is deciding on all of the design finishes. Now, let's get into budgeting. How much does it cost to build a house? Well, that really varies region by region. I know somewhere in the South, you might be able to get away with somewhere around $125 a square foot for a base model house, and then the sky's the limit from there. Where I'm located here in Colorado, our bottom line is somewhere around $200 a square foot, and that's based off of labor and materials that we have in this area particularly. So it might be worthwhile to research what it costs in your local neighborhood to build a house. Now, I also mentioned the sky's the limit. So let's use Colorado as a baseline since I'm standing here and it's the strongest part of my knowledge base. $200 a square foot is going to get you a fairly nice custom home. It's not going to have some of the fancier elements that you might see on the interior and exterior, but it's going to get the job done. What is the upper limit of that? I've seen homes bid out at $1,000 a square foot. That's going to buy you just about whatever you want inside of your home. So $200 a square foot on a 2,000 square foot house, $400,000 build cost. $1,000 a square foot is $2 million for a 2,000 square foot house. So you kind of get my drift. Your next question, well, how can I save money throughout the process? When you hire a general contractor, every element that they control, whether it be the subcontractors or the materials, they're most likely going to put a profit margin on it. Profit margins vary from 10% all the way up to 40%. So you have to consider that whatever you're buying for your house, if they're purchasing it for you, they're putting a profit margin on it. So those items that you might want to look at purchasing yourself is contracting with your cabinets and your countertops. The contractor might be willing to let you buy the tile. They'll most likely want to buy the paint because they work through suppliers to get paint. But some of those elements like fixtures, both plumbing and lighting, you probably can purchase yourself and just hand off to them. During this process of budgeting, one of the things that you have to be very, very conscientious of is change orders. If a general contractor has given you an estimate, it should be all-inclusive to build this project. Now be very careful to look over the estimate to make sure that they've included all the line items that you require to get the project completed. If they've missed something, they can actually come back and say, well, I didn't include it. It's part of the contract documents, so it's a change order. Change orders oftentimes can actually have a higher profit margin attached to them than the original contract. The other two things that can occur is you've changed your mind. You decided that the bathroom wall needs to move 6 inches, and so the contractor will work up the price of what it takes to move that wall over and make the change. Therefore, they're going to charge a profit margin on that also. The last one, which doesn't happen very commonly with new homes, is unforeseen conditions. That basically almost always occurs before the foundation comes out of the ground, depending on where you're building and the type of soils that you have. Such as here in Colorado, we deal with what's called expansive soils. Once we open up the hole, we actually have to have an engineer come out and examine the soils to make sure that there's no expansive soils. This can affect the foundation design. That's where you would see an unforeseen condition, i.e. the soils are bad and we had to change the foundation to accommodate them. And then I always get the same question, can I do any of the work myself? It's going to take a very open contractor to allow you to put sweat equity into a home. There's a very specific reason. We all have to carry general liability insurance on each project, and we have to make sure that those who are working on the project are contracted by us so that they're covered under that general liability insurance. So on my personal projects, I don't allow it. Next, let's discuss schedule. Now, I'm sure it's pretty easy to understand that the smaller the house, the shorter of a time frame it takes to build, and the bigger a house, the longer. So on a 1,700 square foot house, you're probably looking at somewhere between 4 and 6 months to have it constructed foundation to finish. If you get larger than that, generally up to about 4,000 square feet, you're looking at around 6 months to maybe 8 months. I was on a project with my father that was 17,500 square feet, and it took us almost a year to finish. So it's kind of a gradient based off of the size of your home and also the finishes that you decide to put inside of it. So let's dig a little bit deeper into scheduling. We know that it's going to take X amount of months to build your home. Depending on what region you live in is going to greatly affect your construction schedule. We live in a colder climate in Colorado, and the best building window that we have is basically somewhere around the end of March through the end of November, and it should be obvious why. We have a freeze-thaw cycle here in Colorado, and when it comes to digging a foundation, if we have what we call permafrost, which is the first layer of dirt is completely frozen, it takes extra work to get the foundation in, and then you have to pour the concrete in cold weather, which requires protection for the concrete to cure. If you live in a warmer climate, building can sometimes happen year-round. Think about Florida. Florida, you just build year-round. Nobody cares. Here in Colorado, it can get quite nippy. So the best time to avoid extra cost is to build during those warmer months. Contractors often charge a surcharge for what we call weather conditions. And if we have to blanket the foundation to get the concrete to cure, there's actually a cost attached to that because of the extra labor and the materials. All right, now we've reached the end. You're finally at the finish line. The house has been constructed. You've gone through all of your inspections. You're getting to the point where all the final grading is done. You're putting in landscape. You're getting excited. You've already figured out where to put the couch in the living room. What is the next step? At the end of the project, you want to perform a punch walk. If you've contracted it yourself, you're going to be the one that walks through and looks for any construction defects. Now be reasonable. If there is a little itty bitty speck on the wall, the contractors or subcontractors are probably going to be a little bit annoyed that you called them to come back and do a 2-minute job. Just flick it off the wall yourself. However, you're going to be looking for paint drips, you're going to be looking for inconsistencies and grout lines, things that really affect the fit and finish of the home. If you've hired a general contractor, however, you're going to be walking with that general contractor. That general contractor will be writing a list of things that need to be fixed prior to you submitting final payment. This is an important step to go through because once they're off of the job, it's sometimes a little bit difficult to get them to come back and finish the project. Well, we hope we have answered all your questions today. We hope that you have a good rounded idea of what it takes to build a new home. And of course, once again, as always, we're here to help. If you have any questions that we have not covered in this episode, please leave them in the comments below and we will answer them for you. And yes, we read every comment. From the creative team here at Build Mod Media, thank you for watching.